And welcome back. You have been listening to Precious Child Love Songs and Lullabies. This is a new album produced by internationally acclaimed vocalist, composer, pianist Darryl and multi-Grammy nominated guitarist, composer, the late Joe Beck. We are so fortunate to have Darryl with us here in the studio today. Thank you for coming.
Having me. Thank you for having me.
Our Lives audience welcomes you back. And thank you for the sneak peek of the album, which is due to be released on August the 19th.
That's right. Thank you so much for having me back, Gwen. I watch your show all the time, and it's great to be here.
All right, now this is a departure from some of your previous works.
Yes, this project just happened naturally, or maybe supernaturally. Joe Beck was, as you mentioned, a multi-Grammy winning guitar player, a jazz genius. And I had the great fortune of partnering with him when our kids were growing up. So we just did this music and gave birth to this project all these years later.
And how many years ago was that?
We started working on this when my youngest daughter, who's now 19, was 1 year old.
Oh my.
Yeah, Tessa was 1, so that's 18 years ago.
Tell us a little bit about Joe and how you came to know him.
Okay, so I knew Joe through many years of doing studio work. By that I mean being a recording artist in the studio, working with each other, working with other people. And just one day, almost on a whim, he says, "Tukes, let's get together and do some stuff we want to do instead of, just doing what people tell us to do." And I was like, sure. So we both lived in Connecticut, and he would come by my house and pick me up, and we'd drive into the city and go to the studio and just started working. And I guess what was most dear to us was our children. And I think that's pretty much true for anybody, right?
And that's so reflected in this particular album.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So that was how we started. I think the first song we recorded was Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. The arrangement is just full of imagination. I was able to just do my vocals with abandon, and we had a great time. He says, we're on to something, so we just kept going on and on with it.
And how many years did it take you to complete this album?
Wow, that's a great question. So we started when the kids, he had twins, he has twins, God bless him. He has twins who are the same age as my daughter Tessa. So we did maybe 6 or 7 songs. For this project, when I signed with a new manager last year, he says, listen, Darryl, before you do anything else, you need to go back and revisit the catalog with Joe Beck. And we found that there were 6 keepers. And then I wrote a few more songs for the record. So 17 years in the making.
Wow. And what appealed to you about making an album for parents and young children?
That's also a great question. With all due respect to the great children's artists out there, and there are many, some of it, having raised 4 children, some of it's kind of goofy, and it's fun enough, but it's not the same listening experience. And of course, we weren't trying to be heavy with the project, but it's a reflection of Joe as a musician and of Darryl as a musician. So it's not something that took any effort at all. It just came effortlessly.
How have your children influenced your music?
Oh, I'm sure in great ways. I learned a lot about what's happening because I have 4 children, as I mentioned before. They all have different tastes in music, and they share their music very freely with me. I'm always really curious. I learn a lot about what's going on. And most importantly, though, you write because you have something to say. And for crying out loud, my love for my children, it rules me.
Gives you a lot to say?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now, let's talk about some of the many artists that you have worked with: the Sting, Ray Charles, Aretha Franklin, Michael Jackson. You tell us.
Well, it's true. It's a long list, and it's been great. I've been very privileged and honored, and it's been good work for many, many years. I like to tell this story. I'll try to keep it as tight as possible for TV. I also teach. And once I was teaching a young fellow who was just a prodigal talent, prodigious talent, rather. He could play any instrument, he knew every song. And he always would say, Darryl, tell me somebody famous that you worked with. And I'd say, Matt, I'm working with you. And he didn't get it. And so finally I said, I gotta get this kid off my back. I said, well, who will I tell him? I'll mention Michael Jackson. So Matt, well, I worked with Michael Jackson on more than one occasion. He looked me straight in the face, Gwen, he said, no, Darryl, somebody really famous. So there you have it. It
Oh,
really
my goodness.
is. Yeah, yeah. So you know, but I am
The
very
icon of
exactly of all time. You know, it just wasn't the one to float his boat. So that's why I'm reluctant to talk about that with the students. But for your sake, absolutely, Leonard Bernstein to Aretha Franklin.
And that's a wide
It is.
genre.
It is. It is. It is. You know, so I had the great opportunity of working with Quincy Jones on more than one occasion.
Who produced so much of Michael Jackson's work.
Absolutely. Yeah, I worked on Quincy's Messiah, the Soulful Messiah, and I worked on Leonard Bernstein's West Side Story, the only time he ever conducted it for record.
Wow.
Which is, you know, it's quite an honor.
Now, we're almost out of time, but tell us how to get the album once it's released.
Yeah, so this will be available at through McKenna Group Productions, so you can find the record online. Just Google Precious Child CD and you will find it. Okay, it's going to be available in retail as well, but it's going to be released in August. And yeah, I don't think there's anything else I can say about that to get it more clear.
So
yeah,
go
that's
online.
it. Yeah, go online to find
Well,
it.
Darryl, thank you so much.
Gwen, I can't thank you enough. Keep doing what you're doing. It's working well for you, and we enjoy it.
Well, you do the same.
It's quite an
Keep
honor.
doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Because it's working well.
Yeah.
All right. Mwah. Thank you. And you stay with us here on Our Lives. When we continue, we'll hit a high note with a performance by an artist who is about to drop his debut album. Back in a moment.